Welcome back to our channel, dear friends. I have been sitting here thinking about everything that has been happening lately in our favorite little town of Port Charles, and my goodness, my head is just spinning like a top. The sheer amount of secrets, lies, and sneaking around in the shadows is enough to make anyone dizzy. But the one question that has been keeping me up at night, the one thing I just cannot stop chewing on is this. Did our charming but ever so dangerous Valentin Cassadine actually manage to sneak right under everyone's noses and snatch back Jack Brennan's mysterious black box from the dark, drafty halls of Windermere? I tell you, watching this whole situation unfold is like watching a pot of water just waiting for it to boil over. And I have a very strong feeling that somebody is about to get burned. To really understand the tangled web we are looking at, I feel like we have to go back and look at how all these pieces are moving on the board. Let us start with that incredibly tense visit to Spoon Island. Now, you all know Windermere is not exactly the kind of place you go for a sunny afternoon picnic. It has always been a place filled with dark corners and Cassadine secrets. So, when Valentin and his sweet daughter Charlotte showed up at the castle, my radar immediately went off. Dante Falconeri was already there, holding down the fort because the place is an active crime scene with Jen Sidwell currently sitting in custody. You could just feel the frustration rolling off Dante in waves. The poor man was clearly aggravated that the WSB had already marched their way through the castle, completely stepping on the toes of the PCPD before our local boys in blue even had a chance to do their jobs properly. And then there was Valentin, smooth as silk, looking Dante right in the eye and casually mentioning that he was interested in buying Windermere back. Can you imagine the nerve? But Dante, bless his heart, played it straight, telling Valentin he had no earthly idea if the gloomy old estate was even on the market, especially given the current criminal investigations. Still, being the accommodating man he is, Dante allowed Valentin and Charlotte to take a little walk down memory lane, assigning a police officer to escort them around the property. I watched that scene and thought to myself, Valentin always has an angle. He is never just taking a simple stroll. His mind is always working 3 steps ahead, like a grandmaster playing a high-stakes game of chess. Dante eventually pulled Valentin aside because he wanted to have a private word with him, which meant young Charlotte was left to be escorted by the officer back to her old bedroom. Now, this part just made me chuckle and warm my heart a little bit. When Charlotte came back from looking at her old room, she made it very clear that she absolutely despised the floral wallpaper in there. It was such a perfectly normal teenage reaction in the middle of all this high-stakes spy drama. It just goes to show that no matter how much Cassadine darkness surrounds that family, a teenage girl is still going to have very strong opinions about interior decorating. It was a sweet, grounded moment before the storm really started brewing. Not long after that, Dante had to take his leave, and who should come waltzing through the heavy wooden doors of Windermere but Jack Brennan and Nina Reeves. The timing could not have been more suspicious if they had planned it with a stopwatch. Jack, acting like he owned the place, immediately arranged for an escort to take Valentin and Charlotte back to the launch to get them off the island. He wanted them gone, and he wanted them gone quickly. But here is the thing that really gets my mind working overtime. Did Valentin actually leave right then and there? Or did he manage to slip away and buy himself a little more time to snoop around the castle? Knowing Valentin, trying to keep him away from something he wants is like trying to hold back the tide with a broom. He always finds a way to slip through the cracks. This whole situation at Windermere ties so deeply into the conversations Valentin has been having with Anna Devane. Oh, the history between those two. It is thicker than molasses in January. When Valentin finally caught up with Anna, he laid some heavy truths on her. He explained that he had taken a secret trip all the way to Geneva to meet with the mysterious figure known only as Z. But Valentin made it crystal clear to Anna that dodging the watchful eyes of Steinmauer was no walk in the park. It was a dangerous, complicated maneuver, and Valentin does not take those kinds of risks unless the payoff is absolutely massive. And the secrets he brought back from that trip to Geneva were enough to make my jaw hit the floor. Valentin told Anna that he had gone there specifically to blow the whistle on Ross Cullum, exposing him as a double agent. But that was not even the most terrifying part. He also brought up the chilling subject of a dangerous cold fusion weapon prototype. And whose final twisted project was this? None other than Caesar Faison. Just hearing that man's name sends a shiver right down my spine. Faison has been a dark cloud hanging over Port Charles for decades, and the idea that his final deadly project is still out there floating around in the hands of spies and double agents is truly terrifying. It is like a ghost reaching out from the grave to cause more heartbreak and destruction. But here is where the story gets really twisted and where I think the true danger lies. Valentin told Anna that Z listened to him and followed his advice regarding Cullum and the weapon. However, Valentin heavily implied that things in the spy world are never just a one-way street. Z did what Valentin asked, but Z is going to expect something substantial in return. This little nugget of information perfectly echoed a conversation Anna had recently with young Jocelyn Jacks. During that chat, Anna made a very poignant observation about how the WSB operates. She told Jocelyn that whenever the WSB steps in to help someone, they always, without fail, expect to get something back. There is no such thing as a free lunch when you are dealing with international espionage. So, it begs the million-dollar question. What exactly does Z want from Valentin in return for his cooperation? I have been racking my brain, and all signs point to one thing. Could it be that Z wants Jack Brennan's black box? That little piece of hardware holds so many secrets, so much power, that it would be the ultimate bargaining chip. If Valentin promised that box to Z, it would explain everything that happened next. Let us shift gears for a moment and look at what was happening back on the mainland. Later on, we saw Valentin rubbing elbows with Carly Spencer over at the Metro Court. The Metro Court is always buzzing with activity, a place where people go to see and be seen. While Valentin was there with Carly, they had a few interruptions. Curtis Ashford came over to have a word with Valentin, and then in a very tense moment, Britt Westbourne marched right up and confronted Carly. The drama in that hotel never stops, but after all that commotion settled down, Valentin returned his attention to Carly. She kindly asked him to stay and keep her company, but Valentin politely declined. He told her he had to leave, making up an excuse about having an errand to run, though he promised he would be back later. An errand. My goodness. Whenever a man like Valentin Cassadine says he has an errand to run, you can bet your bottom dollar he is not going out to pick up a loaf of bread and a gallon of milk. He was on a mission, and I am entirely convinced that his mission led him straight back across the water to Spoon Island. Because while Valentin was supposedly out running his errands, Brennan and Nina were back at Windermere, tearing the place apart, looking for that precious black box. You could see the desperation in their eyes. They were searching high and low, completely empty-handed, and getting more frustrated by the minute. They even started discussing the possibility of buying a specialized infrared scanner just to locate the heat signature or the IR tag on the box. That is how desperate they were getting. They were like two cats on a hot tin roof, pacing around and realizing that their grand plan was slowly slipping through their fingers. And then, the moment that made me gasp out loud in my living room, while Brennan and Nina were busy talking and trying to figure out their next move, a mysterious man wearing dark brown gloves silently sneaked right into Windermere. He moved like a shadow, completely undetected by the two people who were supposed to be guarding the place. After Brennan and Nina finally gave up their immediate search and left the room, this mystery man made his way down into the dark, damp wine cellar, perhaps even deeper, down into the sub-basement where the real secrets of Windermere are kept buried. I watched with my heart in my throat as this man in the brown gloves reached out and picked up a large, heavy-looking black box with a sturdy handle. He lifted it up and simply carried it away, disappearing back into the shadows as quietly as he had arrived. It was a flawless, silent heist executed right under Brennan's nose. Now, I ask you, who else could that mystery man be but Valentin Cassadine? He had the motive, he had the opportunity, and he certainly has the skills to pull off a stunt like that. If Valentin is indeed the man in the brown gloves, and if he has just secured Brennan's black box, the implications are absolutely staggering. Is he planning to hand that box over to Z to pay off his debt? Is this the final piece of the puzzle needed to completely take down Jack Brennan once and for all? I cannot help but feel a deep sense of dread for Nina in all of this. Bless her heart, she has tied herself to Brennan's wagon, and if Valentin is truly pulling the strings behind the scenes to destroy Brennan, Nina's going to be caught right in the middle of the explosion. It looks to me like Brennan and Nina's grand master plan is rapidly turning into an absolute unmitigated disaster. They thought they were the ones in control, but they completely underestimated the cunning and the sheer determination of Valentin Cassadine. This whole storyline is just a classic example of why we love this show so much. The twists, the turns, the secrets hidden in the dark, basements of old castles. It is everything that keeps us coming back day after day. I am going to be watching the upcoming episodes like a hawk, waiting to see when that black box finally resurfaces and who ends up paying the ultimate price for all this deception. Until then, my dear friends, keep your eyes peeled and your teacups full, because the drama in Port Charles is only just getting started.